Hello there and welcome to my first build guide for Wolcen, the full released game. First of all, a few disclaimers as always. This is offline mode. This character is level 90 at the moment, so this is the end game performance that you will gain. The level 60 version that I did have to implement on online mode is damage-wise about 50% as efficient, or 50 to 70%, somewhere around that, depending on how lucky you get in terms of gear and so on. So that's disclaimer before I will show you anything that this build does in-game. It's a bleeding edge build. It's like similar to the Blade Vortex from Path of Exile. I will just quickly go over the abilities after I showcased some of the movement inside Mandate at the moment, because my net order is a little bit quicker for me and I can port out. So just have this bleeding edge stuff all around you to deal damage. Can still move with jumping ability, which is kind of useless, just to be honest, because we can dodge on this build. Well, we can, but it's not efficient. This is also a level 90 zone, so things will hit pretty hard.
I need more power.
But yeah, you can see the crits on some enemies can get pretty juicy. Yeah, that should be enough of showcase. Don't want to waste any more of your time. There are few things that go into a lot of the conditional damage dealt by this build. But let's start with the abilities first. So the runes I chose, and we'll showcase each of them on the screen right now, is Warpath with those runes. Then we go for Sovereign Shot with those. Juggernaut, Wings of Ishmir, and Bleeding Edge. Right, now to an explanation because why I chose this node over the other node. Bleeding Edge obviously want to have increased area of effect for better coverage, want to have continually thrown and follows you. Those two are mandatory for this type of build. If you do not want those and want to have them stationary just on the ground, go for it and have fun. They deal way more damage, but they won't follow you, so your clear speed is a bit slower. I want to take this one for increased damage. It's just the best DPS node. There are interesting ones like increased projectile speed or increased area, which is also nice as far as coverage go, because they just swing further out. But obviously do less damage, or you just pick the area out and pick this node. But I personally found this combination to be the most useful one. Well, Wings of Ishmael, which is basically just buffing us and giving us a movement for the cost of our stamina points, because we can't dodge roll, as I mentioned, which I'll get to later. And yeah, just applying some weakness, doing some rage gen, flight speed, and grants us a buff. Then we have Juggernaut, we just also focus around maximum absorption with lowest amount of cooldown reduction, rage cost decrease, and projected damage is reduced, which is mostly nasty shit that is happening. Then we have Sovereign Shout, also a huge buff for rage generation, huge buff for crit hit chance score, by the way. That's score that is multiplied there or increased. We have buff granted by this and other skills that is increased. This will also buff we gain from Wings of Ishmir. As also reduced damage from projectiles while charging. That is nice, so you are not stopped prematurely by some CC and also CC immune during the duration of the charge, but you can obviously change that to something different that you want. Nothing of this here is really important for the usability of the skill, except maybe those two, to charge as far as you can. Some find it more useful when not selecting the increased movement speed. But yeah, those are all skills. The fifth skill is still open. You can take Trekker's Reach with the Stasis rune. We'll get later to that if you want to take this or not. It's more single type, but it's quite tricky to use, and you also have to spend more passive points. But yeah, that's everything we have here so far. Now onwards to the passive tree, you want to locate your soldier area to the bottom. Then on the bottom left, there should be the Cabalist area with Immortal Offering, which will give us 25% for each ailment on the enemy. Basically, that's what it's saying. For those who don't know, you can only afflict one ailment per skill that is based on the highest ailment type of damage that you're dealing. So for Bleeding Edge, that's obviously Rend. And the second highest is Poison for us here. You can see that in the skill description, it's Poison and Bleed for now. And we are obviously inflicting more because we are also using Wings of Ishmael, which still have the ailment chance for Shock and Weakness. And we also have the also, this is Shock, Weakness, and Sacred Damage, because we took the Sacred Damage rune as far as I remember. Yes, there we go. So you can get 5 stacks of the Sacred buff and 5 stacks of the Shock buff, I think it is. It should be possible, yet I have only seen 3 buffs at the active at a time, which was Rend and Poison from Bleeding Edge and the Sacred Damage from Wings of Ishmael. But yeah, we are able to also apply 2 ailments with Bleeding Edge because we are taking the Grievous Inflictions for 1 additional ailment per skill. So we are able to, theoretically, we could go up to 4 times 25 increased damage per ailment, but we'll most likely only have 50 to 75% increased damage, which is huge for this node. I'm also taking the Power of the First Man node, which is nice to have more ailment uptime, which will obviously increase the uptime of all your ailment buffs given by Immortal Offering for the entire duration of the Rift, because you will inflict just way more ailments and it will just keep your overall coverage of this buff more consistent in the long run. You are also free to go without this. Then we are moving down this side, and parallel to that, down this side. We're obviously taking wildcard for the crit hit chance score. We're reducing rage cost on those two. That's the important stuff that we are taking here. We obviously want to get more max willpower and rage. We're taking merciless lethality for more crit hit damage, which is pretty bonkers to be honest. Want to take the damage for only 1 nearby enemy within 7 meters range for bosses only. If you don't struggle with boss damage, you don't need to take this, but it's quite nice to have. Then we want to go over to probing weakness. That is one of the nodes that you want to take later in the game, because this is actually a 30% damage increase together with this node, which is nice, but it's not needed. Of course, 30% increases are quite low in terms of what other passives gives us on the tree, but yeah, that is something that you can spec in late in the game, like level 80 plus or something. We'll move on this direction for the weakness and block chance. Those two are also a late game node because the 5% block chance is not needed that much. Same goes for Kingless Aegis. Also, we are picking those middle nodes on every way around the tree. So this gives us 5% movement speed, 5% movement speed, 5% movement speed, and so on. That's the only reason we're taking those nodes. You don't need this to be good in terms of damage or coverage. It's just a nice thing to have. You can also opt in to use the unique boots, which give you, I think, like 150, 200% increased movement speed or something. Those are pretty pork, this build. So we obviously want to have the Tenet, the Branded Burst node, because that is completely ridiculous. It basically gives you 100% damage reduction once you're at 5 points, and if you're at 4 points, it only gives you 80% damage reduction, which is again pretty insane. It's, I think, the sole reason we are actually surviving in this game, because I haven't invested any point in toughness. We just dump all our points into ferocity as much as you can get. That's pretty good. We're at a 51% crit chance at the moment. I don't care about anything else on this. Toughness doesn't matter, agility doesn't matter, wisdom doesn't matter. Agility gives us a little bit more attack speed, which we can offset. That helps us offset the decrease we are gaining for the two-handed weapon, which makes the build feel more consistent overall. But yeah, we obviously want to take the Headhunter buff. This as well is a late game addition. It makes the expeditions a little bit more quick, because you can get stuff like movement speed or added damage and so on. It's definitely not needed, it's just nice extra. It's not as OP as the Headhunter from Path of Exile, but it's nice to have again. Then the single most overpowered node on the entire tree, hands down, this is disgustingly OP. This node basically states that if you're above 750 rage, you spend twice rage for any skill use. This will also apply uh, to our main damage dealing Bleeding Edge. So it costs us 260 rage cost at the moment. But we'll deal double damage, and this double damage node is consistent for the entire duration of the Bleeding Edge skill. So you use twice rage and just get double damage. This is completely insane, and it's hands down the best node on the tree. That's why we're taking this as soon as we can. After that, there are a few nodes that are still worth taking. Down here, first node is this for more damage for each nearby enemy. So if you take the 1% extra here, that's 5% per each nearby enemy. If you're having like 3 to 4 enemies nearby, which is I think a pretty consistent number all along the expeditions, that would be a 20% damage increase permanently. It's nice to have because it's just like for we are pathing next to either way, so we can obviously take this. But it's optional for later in the game, as I've stated before. Then we'll have the damage per unspent rage, which is incredibly nice with the rage gen on kill. That's the only reason we're taking this actually. The damage increase is nice because we obviously want to have as much rage as possible all the time. But the rage on kill is mandatory, you have to take this. Any kind of rage gen on kill or rage cost reduction is insane on this build. Rage on hit doesn't apply to us because the swings of the axes around us are not considered hits by the game, but yeah. Rage on kill is insane. Rage cost reduction like we took here is also insane. Then we're moving further down the line for the impaired movement. This is obviously true when we are jumping with that skill, with the Wings of Ishmir, because this will stun or impair the movement on enemies we hit. Then next up, we'll have the Fortress skill. This is not needed in the current version of the build. I still have this in, so I don't have to respec all of these points again. This will allow you to have 100% block chance even when using a two-handed weapon, because of this node here that gives us block chance for any weapon, and we don't need to use a shield. That's why I still wear a two-handed weapon, even though I will probably play the one-handed and shield version because it just feels more fluid or like quick to use, because the cast speed is also not reduced. But yeah. This will give us about 50% block chance once we have all points. If you block, all those points are gone and have to be regenerated basically. And those three nodes are basically a lot of our damage too. It's this one for 0.5, 0.5, and the, I think, currently bugged node that states as 50. If this node is not bugged and intended as it is, it's pretty bonkers. I don't know if it's spelling error or if it's actually bugged and not intended to do what it states, but this is insane. Use it while it is still available. And then we have the damage when at least 6 meters away from all enemies. This is a boss only node again. You don't need to take this unless you struggle with wait. Oh yeah, right. That's a boss only node because the 6 meters in the game, or actually the 4 meters in the game, are the outer range of our Bleeding Edge skill, so you will technically be away from all enemies, for the game at least, even though if you're standing in like melee range or something. It's quite weird. You can test out ranges with the Havoc's Ball skill, Havoc Orb, right? There's a node that gives you, where's it? Decreases your minimum cast range. There we go. This, you can test this for the 5 meters range. It will be like pretty far away still, or pretty close depending on what you're referring to. So yeah, it's pretty helpful. For me at least, I felt the damage if I hit enemies with the outer, like far outer corner of my skill. It's nice to have, yet as well not needed. Just nice addition. It's just 25%, so it's not much either way. Then we want to have the max willpower and rage, obviously. With all those are also nice to have. And yeah, that pretty much covers up everything that you need on this build. The essential notes for this again are the crit damage, crit hit chance, then the ailment with the additional ailment per appliance, the rage on kill, then we also have the probing weakness stance where you cannot dodge roll after that. You have to stay in the exact stance and don't dodge roll, as well as the double damage out on a tree. Those are the essential points. This gives us all our defense, so we don't have to waste any points into toughness. And yeah, just use it as you like or how you want to progress through the skill tree. There are things to change if you want. For example, if you're using a shield, you can skip out on the Kingless Aegis and also out of the high evasion node. Those are not needed if you're doing this, as well as a few of those green nodes that I mentioned, like this one here and this one here. And yeah, that's the skill tree for now. That's how it's performing for the thing that I stated earlier with the shield and two-handed weapon. The two-handed weapon attack speed is like this. It's pretty fast, yet it could be faster. For the one-handed weapon, it is like this, which will obviously drastically increase your map speed when using this, right? And again, you can dodge roll. If I dodge roll, I switch my stance to the Stalwart Resolve, which increases my block chance and block, which is nice in terms of defense, but it will cost us 25% of our overall damage. So if we dodge roll again, we'll just switch to probing defenses, which will give us a chance to double our damage, which resulted in nasty like 1 million crits with this build. Be aware that the one-handed version of this build, as of now, for my weapons, I'm using this weapon that gives me 2 attacks on this weapon as a modifier, is dealing less damage on the 3 damage two-handed weapon. And if you're like already condemning me because I'm using all legendary gear, those gear parts actually don't have any like special stats on them. There are no uniques. You can find all of these items just in a little bit less potent version in the game. I already have those on online right now. So what you are aiming for is want to have the rage and willpower cost reduction on both of your spoilers. You want to have the rage and willpower cost reduction on both of your hand slots. And then for all your jewelry, so for the necklace, for the rings, as well as for the belt, you want to have as much 2 attacks modifier on there as possible. It is possible to get 3 modifiers that state this damage added 2 attacks, but most common are the +1 or +2, which I'm referring to online all the time. So +2 attacks is 2 attack modifiers, which is seen here. Spell damage doesn't do anything. Material damage is nice. Overall percent increased damage is better because we also scale all elemental damage, which is quite high because of the rings and the other jewelry. For boots, you only want movement speed. Velocity is nice. Every kind of like added material damage, increased damage, whatever is obviously nice too, but still not needed. Pants, nothing really interesting on there, as well as for the helmet. Heals material damage, but increased damage is again better. On your armor, you want to have the defense 1 slot for the percent block chance from the Alexandrite, which will obviously able or make you able to have 100% block chance while wielding a two-handed weapon, which you can see here. This is also with the fortress node, so I would have about 80 or 90% without the fortress node at the moment, which gives us like 50%, so it's way over the top, but it's just making things more fluid, to be honest. Yeah, just like that because we're already in the vicinity of this node. But yeah, you want to have defense 1 on here, And for those ring slots, you want to have also the support one. There are a few old items, so don't be confused, but you want to have the support one on your jewelry for attack crit hit chance score. And if you're wearing a shield, same goes here, just pick defense one or support one, whatever you're lacking. If you're lacking block chance, pick the defensive one. If you're lacking damage, just pick the support one and put Alexandrites in each slot, because they're pretty neat. And as for the weapon, I'm using physical damage here, but you can use anything that you want. I would personally recommend using elemental stuff for this, because as you can see here, my fire and lightning damage is quite high at the moment because of this weapon. So there's a good chance that you could just use any other thing on there, and it will also do the trick basically. But yeah, just use any gem on the offensive one slot that gives you damage on attacks of this weapon, which is useful for you, and you're pretty much good to go. But yeah, that's it for the gameplay. Just use 2 rage pots, by the way. A health pot is not needed. If you're taking damage by any means, you're probably dead. Unless you have like 80,000 life or something. The 10 points will keep you alive. If those go away, your life will do the same, so there's no health pot needed. To be honest, also we have like 7% life leech with this buff, which is more than enough on like 500k crits. If you have any further questions regarding this build, I'm happy to help you over on twitch.tv/saltydane. I gladly answer your questions while trying to grind to level 90 today once the servers are up and running again. And yeah, I wish you good luck out there in Wolcen, and hopefully this build will help you too. You are expected to deal about, I think, maybe 100k damage on level 60 plus with decent items. I think that's a number that you could potentially strive for, but even if I'm only hitting for 50k, that would be almost like 5 times damage I'm dealing at the moment. But yeah, have a good time, have good luck, and just put questions into the comments if you have any left. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.